Hello, it's Kim. It's nice to be here with you. Someone is doing very loud things outside, so hopefully that's not distracting. I am hot, very, very hot. It is currently 83 degrees in this apartment, which is very warm. So if I'm sweating, please forgive me. All right, so welcome to the Q&A for this Tuesday night. I have been doing my preparations for my protein video, which I'm trying to film, but it's too hot. I'm just melting. So you guys get me real and raw, but I want to make sure that video I look okay. So I might have to reschedule for Friday. I'm also keep losing my train of thought because I'm melting. So happy to be here with you guys. It feels like friends when I do the live, so I feel a little less intimidated to make sure that everything goes well and I'm not rambling. There's really no chance that I'm not rambling when I'm talking to all of you. So I hope you appreciate it. Anyway, so yeah, I'm going to talk about protein in my video that I'm recording at this time. Specifically, I want to make sure I cover the basics, which is how much should I have a day? Does it matter where it comes from? And what's the third one? See, my brain is gone. Brain is gone. Dosing. How many meals a day is optimal? So I'm going to talk about that, and then I'm going to get into all the myths and the FAQs. So if you have protein questions, tell me, what do you want me to talk about? I'm going to talk about, can you only absorb 30 grams in one setting? I'm going to talk about kidneys, bone health, all the myths around that, some stuff around longevity, the people saying don't eat too much protein, that kind of thing. So if there's anything else you want me to throw in there, let me know now. Michelle says it's Florida. It's in the high 90s. Yeah, it's super hot. It's usually not this hot here, so nobody has air conditioning. I do not have air conditioning, which is why it is now 80, I think 83. It was 82 a minute ago, but I think it's now 83 in this room. So that's hot. Michelle said best brand. So I'm talking about protein from all sources, not just protein powder, if that's your question. But in terms of the best brand of protein powder, I would say there are a lot of good ones. You really want to make sure that they're third-party tested. What does that mean? Well, you can Google is X brand, whatever brand you're looking at, third-party tested. The issue is that a lot of cheaper, or not just cheap, I mean, they could charge a lot of prices and everything, but a lot of brands of protein powder do something called nitrogen spiking. And so that means that you don't actually get the protein they say is on the label, because the way they come up with the amount of protein on the label is testing in a certain way that doesn't mean you actually get that protein. So the proteins I like, rather than just blathering on, keto chow is a really good one. I don't do the recipe the way they say. I do less fat in it. But the protein powder from Keto Chow is excellent. Or all their flavors are really good too. And PE Science is a great one for baking with. The letter P, the letter E, Science. That's been great for baking with. That one is a combination of whey and casein, the two types of dairy proteins, as is Keto Chow. Those are the best for baking with. And they also make a good shake. But Equip protein is a beef protein isolate, and their chocolate flavor is really tasty. They don't have, it's very few ingredients, and it's dairy free. So if you have to worry about dairy at all, even if you don't, that one I recommend highly. So Equip, PE Science, and Keto Chow are probably on the top of my list of what I like. Hey, Susan, good to see you. All right, hold on. I am melting. Tully says, can you combine protein and fat if it's a certain amount? Tully, I don't understand your question. Could you be more? I just don't follow. Most meat is a combination of protein and fat, but maybe I'm missing something. Little Southern Brothers, curious y'all's thoughts on a good collagen. So the first thing I always like to tell people is collagen supplements I don't think of as really protein. I do think some people have found that there are some benefits, maybe for hair, skin, and nails, and maybe gut health. So I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but it does not help muscle protein synthesis at all. So I don't count it as my like basic protein needs in terms of what I need for protein for my body's building. So a good collagen brand, shoot, it's blue. It's blue. What am I thinking? There are a couple of good brands, and I can't remember it. I'll think about it and I'll put it in. Bridget asked, does protein include collagen? So collagen is a type of protein, but it's an incomplete protein. And collagen basically does not help us with muscle growth. And because of that, I count it as supplemental, but not in my protein requirement, if that makes sense. Barbara says, want to learn about protein amounts. I'm trying to cool my body down. But also curious about my thoughts on fiber. So fiber is an interesting one. I think it very much depends on your gut health. Some people just don't do well adding fiber or eating high fiber foods, and then other people do great. So I'm somebody that used to struggle a bit with fiber, but over time I was carnivore for a while. That seemed to really help my gut health. Went back to eating vegetables. Things were better. Digestion was better. And now I eat a pretty high fiber diet, actually, because I eat a lot of vegetables and I'm great. So I think it's highly variable in terms of fiber. Do you have a specific question? Like, is your question, do we need fiber? Or is your question like, what are good fibers? Or so I think it's really variable and we have to do, there you go. Marie said vital protein is the one I'm thinking of. This just says Facebook user. Facebook's been doing weird things about like anonymous posts. So I assume it's that. To me, protein is my top priority. I eat lots of it. I just tend to stay mainly carnivore. Try to eat 2 good meals a day. I need to, so I'm not chronically undereating. Yeah, I think chronically undereating is no good. And I think 2 to 3 meals a day is probably optimal for most people. Diane, are there risks of eating a carnivore diet? What are the risks? I mean, for the most part, I think the good news is that most people self-select, right? So if you're on a carnivore diet for a month, I don't think any harm is going to come, right? By the way, I'm not a doctor. This is just my opinion, not medical advice. But this is where, like, the way that I look at it for myself, right? Is if I were to be like, do I want to go carnivore for a month? I'd be like, well, I can't think of anything that I could do to really truly harm myself that would happen in a month. And within that month, I'd probably have some indicators if this was a good idea or a bad idea to continue. So nutrient deficiencies and problems tend to happen slowly. So as an example, I know somebody who was vegan for a long time, and initially they felt great and fine. And then over time, over a couple of years, they started not to feel so fine. And they started to crave meat. And they ate some meat and they felt better. And so for them, they were like, okay, that's not the right thing anymore. And I'm going to make a shift. And the good news is nutrition, you can usually just make shifts. So, in terms of well-known risks, the issue is not enough people are carnivore, right, in the population to do any real studies that would say there aren't any risks, especially because for a lot of people, if they start having any adverse consequences, like they just don't feel real great, they usually stop. And so that's, a pretty good safeguard for a lot of us. Little Southern Brothers, I've never heard of Madare collagen. No. Tali said, are there any vegetables that I avoid? No, not really. I don't eat a lot of potatoes. I mean, so I still aim for a low carbohydrate intake in general. I don't worry too much about getting more carbs than I used to. I used to be on a very, very strict ketogenic diet where I would keep my total carbs below 20 grams. But about 2 years ago, I transitioned to saying I'm totally fine with more vegetables and even a little bit of fruit. And I'm not going to limit my carbs as strictly. And I've been really happy making that choice. And it's been great for me. But, I often look back and the way that I eat now would not have worked for me 6 years ago when I first went keto because I wasn't healthy then. And now I am. So like one of the things that, over time kind of happens is you go keto or you make a change. Keto's not the only way, but for me, I went keto, made some changes, did some other things, made some changes, and got healthier and healthier and healthier. And then once I was healthy, I switched a bit the way that I eat because I didn't feel like the way that I had been eating prior to then was getting me everything I wanted. So what ended up happening was I wanted to lose a bit more body fat. I changed my fat and protein ratio and added more vegetables, and I saw more of the changes that I wanted to see. But if I hadn't gone through the phases of improving my health slowly over time in ways that I found palatable, which included more heavy cream than I eat now, I wanted it's a step at a time. So, so are there any vegetables I avoid? I mean, I don't eat vegetables I don't like. But I would say, if I were to list the vegetables I've had in recent past, they've been onion, zucchini, celery. I always look at the kitchen when I'm thinking about this. Onions, I had a little bit carrot. I've had broccoli. I had lettuce, tomato, cucumbers, pickled cauliflower, pickles. I eat a lot of cucumbers, by the way. So, you have to pick the ones you like. The ones I tend not to eat very much of would be the high carb ones. So, but I will have like an artichoke. I will have maybe even like, what are some of the sort of more higher carb, but not super starchy ones? Well, I would say, cauliflower, squash, like winter squash I will have, which is a little higher carb. And I'm not limiting my carbs so much because I'm trying to like stay in ketosis or any of that kind of stuff. The reason that I eat on the lower carb end of the spectrum is in fact because I get to eat a lot more of that food. Where like for 50 calories worth of cucumbers, it's like 4 cucumbers. Whereas if I were choosing like a potato, it'd be like 1 ounce of potato, right? And so I want more food, not less food. So I choose based on sort of volume and fullness rather than just a pure carb count. Hey, Terry, good to see you too. Thanks, Teresa. I am sweaty over here. So let's see, Terry, I have no idea how to make and eat an artichoke. It seems like a lot of work. Well, I mean, I steam the artichoke. So I boil some water, just a couple inches of water, clean the artichoke up, cut off any extra little bits, put it in the water for like a half an hour. So it's only like it's steaming rather than boiling. Although my mom used to boil them. I remember that from being a kid. And then you let them cool a little bit because they're real hot. And then you pull off the leaves and scrape them with your teeth because there's meat on the end of each leaf. And you get down to the heart and you peel it out and eat it. It's a thing, but I like eating. So if it takes me like 20 minutes to eat an artichoke, that makes me happy. Tally said, so you'd eat the salad and protein or fat combinations. You don't separate it by macros. Oh, no, I don't separate. No. There's no, you don't want to do that. You don't want to do that. So you want to eat combined meals. You don't want your protein in one meal and the fat in the other meal, yada, yada, yada. So you don't want to do that. You want to eat them together. In an appropriately arranged meal. Yeah, if that was your question, no. I don't eat a salad in one meal and a steak in another. I eat steak and salad in the same meal. You want to, for me, optimum protein would be, optimum meal would be 2 to 3 meals a day, depending on who you are and what you like, where you've got each of those meals. Doesn't have to be like an exact balance. Sometimes one meal might be higher protein and another meal might be higher fat, but you want a good protein distribution among all your meals. So for me, anytime I eat, I'm eating protein plus everything else I'm eating. You don't want to split it up. No. Michelle said, I love cucumbers, especially the little pickle-sized ones that don't upset my tummy. Terry, artichokes not worth work. I guess it depends how much you like artichokes. I like them. Good ones. There's a real range of artichokes. Sometimes you get one and you're like, that was a disappointment. But when they're really good, I like them a lot. Hey, 22 Q-Cat. Thank you so much. I'm feeling real good. It was funny. I should tell you guys, because you're like my friends, right? Last night I just happened to be looking for something on YouTube, and I came across an old video of mine that I was a guest on somebody else's channel, and somebody said, and I hadn't seen it until this is 3 years ago, who's the heavy-set girl in the pink sweater? To which I thought, I'm the only one wearing a pink sweater in this video. Was heavy-set really a necessary addition to your comment? I didn't say anything though, because it's 3 years ago, whatever. But yeah, it's nice to feel a little bit better in my body, feel a little bit healthier, have a little bit less body fat. It's all good. But anyway, I thought that was funny. I thought I should tell you guys that tonight, that I was like, it was like Robert Sykes, Nisha, and Ken Berry. And Nisha was wearing like a gray hoodie. So I was wearing like an apricot sweater. It was like, was there any confusion which one was wearing a pink or apricot shirt? Anyway, really need heavy set. It was valid, but I mean, yeah. Okay. But it was good because then you get triggered. Because my trigger is anytime I show up in public. See, I'm just telling you all the beans. Anytime I show up in public, my underlying fear is that people will be like, oh, she's too heavy to give good nutrition advice. I'm just going to be really honest that through my keto journey was a thought in my head all the time. And so I guess I just like that I feel more legitimate these days. Is that terrible? I don't know if that's terrible. We all have imposter syndrome a bit. Thanks, Susan. I appreciate you. Christy, you said you can get Maple Hill milk on Amazon, the 0 carb. I'm going to Google it right now because I can get regular Maple Hill 0 sugar Amazon. Let's see. Because they said, oh no. Yeah, it's not available anymore. Let's see. Yeah, currently unavailable. Are you sure, Christy, that you're not is it in a blue container or is it in a white container? Because the blue container is the one without sugar. The white container is the one that is just regular milk. Okay, well, I can get that one. Yeah, because I contacted the company and they said they're not making it anymore. So, thanks, guys. I appreciate you. I didn't say that to get like sympathy. I feel like it's important to like be a real human with like real feelings and tell them to people sometimes on a live. Why not? Why not? I'm so glad that I have helped you. Christy. Yeah. The Maple Hill. So for those of us that don't know what I'm talking to Christy about, there's a company called Maple Hill. They're a creamery and they make milk. And that they, for a very short period of time, they made an ultra filtered milk where they took all of the carbs out. And it was very exciting and delicious. And they discontinued it pretty quickly. People were very upset. And so we're all looking for it. I can buy that brand at my grocery store. I just can't. They just don't make that kind anymore. Oh, thanks guys. I appreciate it. I try to be a real human, and we're all real humans. Okay. I am literally wearing I was wearing a, what do you call it? Like a romper earlier, because it's like the coolest thing I have. So I'm still wearing the romper on the lower half of me and a shirt on top to look normal. So, but I show you this. This is funny. As I was sitting down, this is the challenge for the person who the boobs didn't go away. I'm always like, where do I look best? So if I stop here, it's just I'm very wide because of the boobs. Guys, I'm just being super real right now, apparently. But if I stand up, I've got like a little waist, but I am totally weirdly proportioned. It is very challenging to be on camera because I'm like, where should I stop? And now that the wide point, the narrow point, I don't want to show the belly button though, because there's the floop. It's very challenging to be on camera all the time when you're somebody who has spent most of their life in a body that felt a little bit odd. Anyway, I'm just like, let's just lay it all out there on the table. I am so warm. Oh yeah, Debbie feels me. Debbie feels me here in the Bay Area. The fact that we don't know how to deal with a warm day. Thanks, Terry. I appreciate it. See, now I'm getting all the compliments. Michelle says, I am not seeing all the comments. Anyone else having this issue? I don't know where they are. Take something out of the freezer. Yes, I do need something cool. I do. So, I mean, that's like the thing, right? That we all deal with feelings about our bodies, loose skin on our arms. It's just what happens after you have massive weight loss that it's like you've never looked like this before. I've never been a reasonably I've never been an average size 45-year-old. The last time I was average sized, I was high school, right? So things were differently arranged then. I don't know. I think it's, so I think for a lot of us that lost our weight or are losing our weight in mid-age or beyond, I think we have to confront sometimes both the aging and the weight, if that makes sense. I think when we're overweight for a long time, we start to attribute everything to our weight. It's like, oh, yeah, my stomach looks like that because of my weight, because I'm fat, because blah, blah, blah. And then you're like, oh, it's also because I'm old and my skin is saggy, right? And so, it's like, oh, you got to confront so much of this as you're doing this. It's just, am I not seeing the Facebook comments? Oh, I see. Got it. Michelle, I am on 2 platforms at once. I am both on Facebook and some are on YouTube. I'm using something called StreamYard that pulls them all in. So I can see both Facebook comments and YouTube comments on my screen, but you can only see the comments wherever you are, if that makes sense. Losing weight is making fashion much more fun now. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I love this honesty. I'm not losing chest either. And it's all I can see. I know, like, it's like, it's like you want to keep some of it, but could I lose a little bit more? That would be awesome, because this is a little excessive. It is funny to see, like, I'm just rambling now. None of you are asking questions. I'm just rambling, which is, I remember having a friend in my 20s who was like, does anyone have that friend in your 20s that you were like, that is the perfect figure? If I could like choose a figure out of a book, I would choose that one right there, that one. And I remember she got a augmentation done, and all of a sudden I was like, you're like, her whole body looked different. She looked like she gained like 40 pounds all of a sudden. And I was like, and she did it, and she was super fit. I was like, those really skew the way you look. I didn't say that, but and I was like, huh, okay, bodies are weird. Body dysmorphia indeed is a thing. Anyway, just my random thoughts from Kim today. Cabo says, I'm having that feeling since I'm not done. Others are not listening to my advice. It's frustrating. Yeah, I think, it happens to all of us that we feel like if we're not thin, we don't feel like legitimate in terms of what we look like or what our advice, right? And it's like, I remember I used to think, well, as soon as I told somebody, oh, well, I've lost 75 pounds or I've lost 90 pounds, like their opinion of me would change. But they'd been I felt like they were like skeptical of my good advice in the body I was in at that time. And I was like, but inside I was like, I have lost more weight than any of you people have lost who were never really that overweight. So what's more valid? I get it. I get it. It's just, but it is what it is. Thanks, Claire. I know I'm not old, but I'm aging. I've gotten to the age where I look at things and I'm like, why is that doing that? Anyway. Carla says, I love your magic pumpkin bread. I make it all the time. Oh, good. I'm so glad you like it. Body dysmorphia is real. The fat girl always there for me. Even though I'm not obese anymore, it's hard to wrap my head around it since I weigh less than I did when I was 11. Yeah, right? It sticks with you. Tammy says, I think I will always feel like I look fat. Yeah, it does come up. Yet, Cabo, dismissiveness is indeed a word. Good word. I'm in that weird half place where some pants are shrinking and some parts are shrinking and getting lean muscle definition. Some areas are still rolling like a river. Yeah, I mean, I have this funny thing happening. Sarah, I'll share one more of my things. So I'm getting muscle definition in my arm, right? Like I can make a muscle and there's a muscle, but I still got the hang down. Just the hang down. So yeah, it's like, oh, I'm so proud of my, right? It's this like, it's crazy making to be in this body where you like want to feel pride. And then you're like, oh, but I don't love it. Like, can you love it without loving all of it? Can you be proud of one thing without showing the other thing? It's very, there's a lot of feelings wrapped up in our bodies and the way our bodies look. And, and I've got, if we've got like lipedema in some part of our body where there's like fat mass where it's not going anywhere. And, how do you deal with those thoughts? There's so much like deeper stuff in there about our worth and our value and all that. So Nancy says, I remember being in my 40s and thought I was old. That's 30 years ago. Now old starts at 80. Yeah, certainly. One of the things that I talk about in my protein video is in terms of protein, like our bodies dealing with protein well, once we get past like 35-ish, we start this process of becoming what's called anabolically resistant, which means, and it increases as you get older, which means that your body, it doesn't absorb protein as well, which means you need more, not you need less. And so I guess what I start to think of as aging is not the same thing as old, or getting older is not the same thing as being old. And I just keep moving that goalpost, right? Debbie says, I think of it as good progress, specific areas to work on. Absolutely. Yeah, I just always feel I definitely do not regret the weight loss. I do not regret the weight loss in that I am always much happier that I have loose skin than I have that skin full of fat. So, I never think, oh, I wish I didn't lose this weight so I didn't have to see the floopy skin. I just sometimes think I really would. Honestly, the thought I have is I wish that skin removal surgery was painless, because I don't mind much about it except that it's going to hurt. And so then I wonder if I want to do it because I am a baby. Yeah. Hey, Minnie Pearl. My little Beckett calls me Kimmy. Love him. All right. Karen, I'm on a quest to understand why under eating isn't good for the metabolism, but fasting is good. Any ideas? Well, I think it depends who you ask. Under eating and fasting are about the same for the metabolism, in my opinion, but their opinions will vary. So the benefits, like if I have clients who do a lot of fasting, they have the same metabolic adaptation issues that chronic undereaters do. It's the same, in my opinion, the same. So, hey, Karen, my junior prom was at the Oakland Zoo, just so you know. Not out amongst the animals. They have a room. In terms of my opinion on fasting, which is not the same as many, and I'm not saying I am right and they are wrong. We just have different perspectives. The stuff I tend to listen to and believe is that fasting is a form of caloric restriction. It's just an intermittent form of caloric restriction. And so I find that the metabolic adaptation that happens with fasting is about the same. Similar. Okay, Paula, I have a deal. I'll pay for it. You get all the pain. How about that? Let's do that. We'll make a deal. All right. Michelle said, being over 60 makes his lifestyle change a little bit more of a challenge. Oh, and the cost of skin removal is crazy too. Oh, that was a good question about fasting. Yeah. So, I mean, it depends who you ask and what it looks like. And, I don't think fasting is bad. I'm going to say that. Nor do I think caloric restriction is bad. I think in the right context, for the right reason, at the right time, all of those things are good and beneficial. But in excess, both fasting and caloric restriction are negatives. It's about a balance. Karen says, I wish skin removal was free. Yeah. Apparently, if you have gastric bypass, I'm like, why only the gastric bypass people? Often in the wake of gastric bypass, some insurance companies will pay for skin removal surgery, but not if you lost the weight yourself. And I'm like, but I saved you money on the gastric bypass by losing it myself. Maybe you could pay up for the second thing. Anyway, although some people seem to get, if their doctor can properly argue that the skin is causing a medical problem, right? Like it's causing a rash, it's causing chronic irritation. There are some people that seem to get it paid for, but I don't know the details. Julie says, can you talk about collagen brands, how often, increasing good fats, bone broth, wrinkle help? All right, so wrinkle help. So I would say pretty much, in my opinion, the number one cause of more loose skin and more wrinkling is genetics. So good genetics, you're going to have less wrinkling, less stretch marks, less all that. Bad genetics, you're going to have lots of that. Collagen does seem to show a little bit of help, but it's not going to turn bad genetics into good genetics. It just bumps you up a little bit, although some people don't see any benefit. But I don't see any downside except for the money. So if you want to try some collagen to see if there are improvements, I think that's a fine thing to do. I just always tell people, count the calories from collagen, but don't count it towards your minimum daily protein intake, because it does bupkis in terms of the muscle protein synthesis, which is the more important factor than what it does for your skin. Like in terms of like muscle in your body and cell turnover, you really want to make sure your protein is a complete protein of the highest possible quality, and that is not collagen. So if you want to think about like collagen as a supplement on top of your protein requirement, totally cool with that. Vital Proteins is a good brand. Great Lakes Grass-Fed Collagen is a good brand. There are probably other good brands, but what I look for is like a grass-fed, cow-based one, like a bovine collagen rather than a pig one. From what I understand, they're a little better managed. Cabo says, I think the idea is to restrict time of eating without restricting calories for our window of eating, but keep food choices in the high calories to get nutrients and nourishment. So I have a couple of, so the issue is you're not going to lose weight by, so let's say your maintenance calories. So your maintenance calories are 2,000 calories. Let's just say that. I don't know if they are, but 2,000 calories. So if you're like, I'm going to squeeze that 2,000 calories into a 4-hour window instead of eating it over an 8-hour window, and I'll see weight loss. So there's no caloric restriction. There's just time restriction. You won't see weight loss. You won't. You also will be your food will be less beneficial. One, you're causing more gut stress by eating that much in that tight a window. Two, your protein feedings, if you have one at noon and one at 4, well, no, if you're in a 4-hour window, that means you have to eat like at 1 and 3 so that you're done eating by 4. When you do that, now you are not optimizing your protein feedings because there's a refractory period between meals where you don't get the full optimization from that protein. So I don't think a 4-hour eating window a day is appropriate. I think that most people will do best with at least a 6-hour eating window because that gives you time to get 2 protein feedings in with 4.5, 5 hours between them. And yeah, so, but no, just time restricting your food does not seem to have any, significant. I mean, it may be like over the course of the year, you might lose a pound, but it's not going to have any significant impact versus, not time restricting. There might be some other health reasons you want to time restrict, but I would say the most I would time restrict most people would be probably optimally an 8-hour window, minimally 6-hour windows. I don't think it's better to eat 1 meal a day. I think it's better to eat 2 meals a day, and 3 meals a day is okay. But so there you go. Yeah, Paolo says I prefer 6 to 8 hours to allow my gut time to digest properly. And I think that's important. Now, some people are like an anaconda and they can just eat a huge volume of food in 1 meal. But that's not most people. And and for some people, they can totally optimize that meal. That's not most people. So if it's working for you, super. Like, I'm not saying you're doing anything wrong, but I'm saying when I talk to people, because you are people, right? I'm talking to a group of people. I'm going to tell you what works for 90% of the people. If you're in those outliers, that's different. But I want to hit the most people possible. And for the most people possible, I would say a 6 to 8 hour window is better than a 4-hour window so that you get proper nutrient absorption and better gut health and all that kind of stuff. So that's what I have to say about that. Lainey, my 44 and eyelids have started drooping. That happens to everybody. My mom, she's close to 80 now, and it's really starting to bother her because it's starting to affect her vision a bit. And that, not looking forward to that situation because I have the heavy eyelids too. Debbie says, my sister had gastric surgery and skin removal, a lot of scars. It's true. You get like a big scar down here. And yeah, I'm covered in scars anyway because I had a lot of surgery when I was a kid. But yeah, I get it. So I know I just shared some very controversial perspectives. I know that, the keto community is very pro fasting. And like I said, I am not anti-fasting, but I am like, how do I want to say this? There's this word priority, right? And priority comes from this idea that prime or like top and so you can't prioritize everything, right? You have to pick what is most important. And for some people, the benefits they get from fasting are worth the things it is de-optimizing, right? And so let's say you are very, very heavy and have huge blood sugar problems. And fasting for that person for longer might outweigh the downside, which is poor nutrient poorer. I'm not saying poor, but like not as good nutrient absorption, not as good protein synthesis, just not optimized in other areas. But we can only optimize selectively, right? Because sometimes these priorities are in conflict with each other a bit, and we're trying to pick the most important thing. So I'm not saying I'm against it. I'm just saying for most people, I think they might be better served by looking at all their priorities, all the factors, and then properly picking the way they want to go about their nutrition to optimize in as many categories as possible. Because one of the things that I see happening out there in the world is that a lot of the people that are on ketogenic diets to lose weight or low carb diets, and just keep pushing the envelope to try and lose weight. I'm not against it. I think losing weight is great. But we're all getting older. I know I'm saying it again. I know I'm saying I'm not old, and I'm not saying you're old, but we're all aging. We will be older tomorrow than we were today, right? And most of us are out of our 20s. And that means that muscle loss becomes increasingly bad the older we are, because it's increasingly hard to replace. If we're in our if you're in your early 20s and you get a horrible illness and you're bedridden for a week, you lose this much muscle. You lose some. It's a small amount, and you can regain that pretty quickly. By the time you're in your 40s, it might take you 12 weeks or more of solid workouts, the 40s, not the 80s, like to regain the muscle you lost in a week or less. That's not an equation we can afford to be letting happen all the time. Now, you can't stop something like an illness like pneumonia that keeps you bedridden for a little while. But for all of us that are under eating protein in middle age and beyond, and not exercising and not doing all the things to prioritize as much muscle as possible, and fasting does not prioritize muscle, then you have to ask yourself, what's the cost? What's the cost of not prioritizing muscle? And so I would rather be 15 pounds overly fluffy and have more muscle mass than lose 15 pounds. I mean, I'm not saying it's either or, but we have to weigh. If I just didn't eat I couldn't do it because I like food, but if I just didn't eat for a month, I would probably lose like 10 pounds. But would all that 10 pounds be fat? No, it would be a good deal of that would be muscle mass, and I'm not willing to accept that, right? And so we have to balance all of our needs and our happiness. We have to balance the happiness in there too. So Karen said, I just started 48-hour fast. I find my body handle it well. I've been carnivore, high protein, next to zero carbs, but my A1C went from 14 to 6.2. So you're looking for further A1C reduction. So I would have a question for you, Karen, is, are you doing resistance training? Are you lifting weights? Because that is important. Because muscle is our number one glucose disposal. So if you're not getting good glucose disposal, then I would say it's very important to add resistance training. And I'm gonna fess up. I'm not gonna lie to you people. I did not do resistance training for 5 of the 6 years that I have been working on my health journey. I kept just not wanting to do it. And finally I was like, damn it, I am not being a good role model. You guys, I should pay you guys because I have to show up and say, these are the things that are reality. Like if I'm not in alignment with that, it grates on me inside. And I was like, this feels very out of integrity to be telling people they should be lifting weights and not also be lifting weights. So I'm lifting weights now and I love it now. And I'm sorry that I didn't do it sooner. Bye, Michelle. See you later. Bridget says, what do I eat before my training? Usually nothing. Sometimes a quarter of an apple, usually coffee. Coffee. I have coffee. I have coffee before I work out. The reason that I don't eat much, and if I eat anything, a small piece of fruit, is really just because I get a stomach ache if I work out on a full stomach and I digest food very slowly and I work out in the morning. So I think it's fine to work out fasted if you feel good. Why do I choose to have maybe a bite of fruit or something like that? If I wake up and I feel hungry, that hunger is a distraction. And so I don't want to be distracted by that. It affects your mindset to be hungry in a workout, and I don't want that. So I'll eat enough that I won't really feel super hungry, but not so much that I am going to feel like throwing up during my workout, which I will if I eat a normal meal. Sometimes I make a protein shake and I literally drink like a quarter of it and put the pitcher into the fridge, and then I drink the rest of it when I come back. So literally, I'm just trying to take the edge off the hunger if I feel hunger before the gym. I don't eat very much. I think the people that need to optimize what they eat before the gym is really a level of athlete that is far beyond what most of us are. I mean, there might be one watching out there, but mostly. There's a discussion in the comments about the challenges with menopause, and it can hit all of us different. It's totally true. Cabo, do I use keto chow as a meal replacement or just a sweet replacement? I don't like using liquids as meal replacements. So I don't get enough satiety. So I will have a protein shake, but I'll have a protein shake and food, which is part of why I don't put as much fat into my shake, because mostly I want my shake to be just protein and yummy. Mostly it's yummy. And so I mostly use protein powders, to be perfectly honest, for baking. Although on a hot day, maybe a shake is nice. And sometimes I do make shakes. I'm not saying I don't, but 9 times out of 10, I'm using them for baking. But I don't like liquid meal replacements for me. Why is that? Well, because I like to chew. And I think it really depends. Here's the way I look at it. A meal replacement, like a drink, is good if you have low hunger. So let's say you're somebody that knows you need to get in more protein and nutrients, but you're just not hungry enough for them. Then a shake is good because it's low in satiety. But if you're somebody that's more frequently hungry, I don't feel like a shake is as good a choice as a steak. Well, a shake is never as good a choice as a steak. But of all the shakes, I'd say keto chow is better than just having a protein shake, because keto chow adds vitamins and minerals. So it's more of a meal replacement. So hopefully that made sense. So if you're somebody that wants to eat more than you're allowed to based on your macros, I don't recommend shakes. If you're somebody that really struggles to get your protein in because you're just not hungry enough, then a shake might be a good idea. From a total nutritional perspective, I think whole real food is always a better choice, but we have to make adjustments depending on what our level of various things are. Cabo, and yeah, they do add sodium and other things to the keto chow shakes. But if you just need electrolytes, I would say go for an electrolyte drink like Element or Redmond's Relight if you want the flavor in it. Like, I love to drink those things. They're tasty and they're sweet. So different than the meal replacement. Joni says, I have been keto the last 5 years. Reason I had a DEXA scan. I have osteopenia. They said resistance training helps with my bone, make my bones better. Yes. So osteopenia is like early osteoporosis, right? By the time if it would advance, it would become osteoporosis. And so I would say definitely prioritize a high protein diet, because protein structure is 40 to 50%. Sorry, bone structure is 40 to 50% protein. So if you undereat protein, I'm not saying you're undereating protein, but people who undereat protein are more likely to have problems with bone health. There's a rumor that protein is bad for bone health, but it's due to an analysis of calcium that was flawed. So they've debunked that at this time. But Cabo, like a meal replacement is not a requirement. Electrolytes, they're more important, right? Though you can get your electrolytes by, here, keep this on my desk, by taking some magnesium and getting plenty of sodium and eating things that have potassium in it. So, yeah, but also, yes, resistance training, very important for bone health, muscle health, health, all the health, very important. Debbie, prioritizing helps, keeps me motivated and focused. I restructured from just low carb, increased protein, resistance training because I need more lean mass and higher HDL. Removing carbs cleaned up my fatty liver, but there's still work to do. Go, Debbie. Sounds like you're on totally the right track. People are saying they really like Redmond's pre-workout. I've tried different pre-workouts over time. I don't like the itchy hands. There's some arginine. Is it arginine? There's something in it that gives me itchies. But they do have a lot of caffeine, which is nice, which is why I make sure I just have a coffee these days. But I keep trying different ones to see what I think. Cabo, I also noticed I have muscle loss from under eating because not hungry now in menopause. So yeah, big problem there. Chronic under eating will lead to muscle loss. So there is a slightly protective effect for people that are obese. Obese people, I mean, we're all different. So I'm not saying, I'm fidgeting. We're all different. So this is an average. So you might be more or less, but they did a study and they compared an obese population on a restricted calorie diet and a non-obese. So that maybe they had a few pounds they wanted to lose, but they were not obese. And they found that the leaner population lost about 35% muscle mass or lean body mass when losing weight. And the obese group only lost 20% lean mass while they were losing weight. So meant that they were losing 80% fat, 20% lean. Whereas the group that was lean to begin with was losing 65% fat and 35% lean. So much bigger proportion. That being said, if you do resistance training and you eat sufficient protein while you are losing weight, if you're doing those things right, you can reduce the percentage of lean mass you lose as you lose body fat. So you want to optimize to lose as much body fat and as little lean mass as you're losing weight. And I wish I knew all of this when I started losing weight 6 years ago. But we can only know what we know. We can't go backwards. We can only go forward. So there you go. Anyway, that's what I got. We're coming up on the hour, so it was super fun to spend it with you. You guys always make me happy. So thanks for being here with me tonight. Please tell a friend to join these lives. I do weird things like show you my boobs. And you know, why not? So I'm sure I'm going to get censored for saying that on YouTube. I didn't mean it, YouTube. I was just making a joke. All right. So everyone have a great week, and I will try not to melt. I'm probably going to take a very cool shower at this time and then grab an ice pack. So thanks, everybody. Oh, yeah. Hit the like, the thumbs up. You know, I always forget you can give me stars, do all that stuff. Make me popular, people. Do it. Wasn't popular before. Let's be popular now. All right. Bye, guys.